FreeBSD every weekend.
Why post a show?
You ready? We're
Better not.
All right, I think everyone is here, so we're gonna just go ahead and get started. Oh, wait a second, he needs to get done.
He's probably gonna go to the bathroom, he's getting.
Nervous?
He does have 2 minutes.
Nathan Wingman, get up there and start.
I made flash. What?
Start the
good.
presentation.
For your question?
Yeah, then I come in after lunch and everyone's, hey guys, this is Austin. Hey, he's doing that.
Dear science.
What?
You don't know that, Austin. Okay.
No, I'm thinking about Austin Evans.
I know. I was doing.
His question is like, you think FreeBSD would be costing? Wait, no, it's free. It says free in the name. You silly goose.
Metal.
Come on, SpongeBob.
Here's the shard that could fill space.
Space. This is gonna be a long load. Patrick Star.
Right, you just gotta come on, bro.
Oh,
That stuff's not working.
Even though I don't.
I'll get to talk for
Yeah, that might
15
be a
minutes, 2 minutes.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
What if I get bullets?
Okay, so now you brought it
now. Unless you wanna leave now.
All right, I can tell we're an excitable group today.
Well,
It's
thank
the Yes. We're gonna watch Austin do his demonstration. He has 50 minutes. Hopefully he won't take way more than that, because then we're gonna take a break and then take our final. At that point, you're welcome to.
Take the file too?
I should have
His questions are on there, so even FreeBSD questions are on the exam. It's just mostly the questions you created. I tweaked a couple of them along the way. But you'll
So
be
what
happy
day,
to
what
find
hour,
out
what
many of
seconds?
them are what you listed. So you at least have to get 10 points on this final since you created the 10
I don't
questions.
remember my questions.
But today we have with us a guest that flew all the way in from the CIS lab. And
Wow.
That's 6 feet away.
he's here with us today to talk to us about FreeBSD. So Mr. Austin Hawes, I gladly give you the floor.
Hey guys, this is Austin. Today we'll be talking about FreeBSD.
English is very
What is FreeBSD? Well, it's free and open source. It uses a Unix-like shell, and what that means is it's basically Unix, except for it didn't meet some, like they didn't buy like the certification or something. So it's pretty much Unix, but it's not in quotations. It is the most used open source BSD OS, and the BSD part in the name stands for Berkeley Software Distribution. The beginning. It was originally this couple's William and Lynn Jolitz. I think that's how you pronounce it. It was their idea to take some software that AT&T had, and they modified it to create their own operating system, and they called it 386BSD, and that was the child of FreeBSD. They kind of neglected it, and so when they made 386BSD, they didn't really keep it updated and stuff, so it just kind of fell behind. And that's when like the FreeBSD people kind of like took it over. But they first released it on a FTP server, so you could go out to it and get a copy of it. Yeah, so they neglected 386BSD, and that's when the FreeBSD project was born. The first time it was ever called FreeBSD was in June of 1993, and then in November of 1993 is when it actually was released. So like they had the name and the idea and the concept and everything, but it wasn't actually released until November. And the first company to ever put it on a CD-ROM was Walnut Creek. It was actually their most successful product, and they actually renamed their company the FreeBSD Mall because it was so successful. So FreeBSD 2.0, this occurred after AT&T tried to like sue FreeBSD because they used some of their like code, like they just kind of copied it, and they settled out of court. They didn't actually disclose how much money they settled over, but then the next year, November 1994, they released FreeBSD 2.0, which was the first version of FreeBSD that had all of its original code. Like there's nothing from AT&T in there, so they couldn't get sued again. Who uses FreeBSD? It works really good in like embedded softwares, or embedded as an embedded software. So like IBM uses it, Juniper Networks, Apple's Mac OS has implements of it. Netflix and PlayStation 4 also use it, which I thought was pretty interesting. Some system requirements. It uses 2 to 4 gigs of RAM. It can actually run on a lot less than that. Like, I think it was like 1 gig, but what I found out when I was installing it is you run out of swap space. And so if I tried running it at the very beginning with like 1 gig of RAM, it would crash, and it would tell me I ran out of swap space. You need at least 8 gigabytes of hard drive space, and it works on pretty old stuff too. So anything higher than an Intel 486 processor and an AMD Athlon 64, it'll work on that. So getting started. So when you decide that you really want to run some FreeBSD in your spare time, you go out to their website, freebsd.org, and they have a variety of ISO images and stuff like that. They have 2 different types of ISO images. You have like a boot only one. So if you use that, then you have to like disconnect that disk after you install it, or else it'll just keep giving you the boot screen, or you can do it as like a regular ISO. So then I used VMware, and you just have to configure VM settings. So I gave my machine, I think it was 4 gigs of RAM, and then I gave it like 12 gigs of hard drive space. So then this is what the boot screen looks like. So once you get all your stuff situated, this is the first screen you're greeted with. You got the little logo here. I don't know, it's on the front of your pamphlets too. I think it's supposed to be like a devil or something. And there's different install options, but I just use the default one. So if you just wait like 10 seconds, it automatically runs everything for you. So you can enter the shell from here, or you can use it as like a live CD or install, but I chose to install it because I used a virtual machine and I didn't need it on a live CD, so just install it. You set up the next step is asks you to set up your host name. So I think I left mine blank, but in this picture you can name it whatever you want. So I decided not to use ports. I used packages instead. So after you choose your host name, it prompts you like there's games installed. So I didn't really feel like playing any games on FreeBSD because I knew how exciting that would be. So I deselected that, and then I deselected the ports tree, and then continued. And then it'll prompt you to connect to a network. And so this right here is like it's connected to the switch on the virtual machine, but on yours you might like be connected to Ethernet or something. It just depends on like what you're using. And then you have to select a mirror, and so I just use the default one for the main site. And then partitioning, you have you can like customize your partition, so you can go in there and manually do it. But I just use the auto config, so I'd have less hassle. And after that, it prompts you to create, like it asks you if you would like to put a password like on the root user. And so I always use, me personally, I always use like the lab password, because if I come back in like 5 years or so, I'm not gonna forget what my password is, because I ran into that quite a bit as a freshman, forgetting my password and having to reset stuff. So then, after you create your root, you can start creating users. So you can create as many as you want here, but I just decided to make 2 of them. So you don't have a package manager off the bat, you actually have to install it, and the package manager for FreeBSD is PKG, so basically just package, and then it prompts you Y, it's for yes, and then for no if you'd like to install it. So then you hit Y and it'll install. So then once you have that installed, you use PKG and then you type install and then you put whatever package you want and it'll go fetch that package and download it. So off the bat I used, I don't know, it's kind of hard to see right here, but it says Window Maker, Roxfiler, Sakura, Firefox, ZSH, gedit, and Zorg. Those were the starter packages that I installed for FreeBSD. So in the form I was using to set this up, in order to use Window Maker, I had to go into I used VI to go into the config file. I added dbus enable, and then I set the variable to yes, and then I saved it. I had to learn how to use VI, and it's awful. It was a nightmare. I kept deleting stuff, and then at one point I think I just turned off my virtual machine and turned it back on, and it started me at a point before I had to do this part, so I got lucky there and I didn't have to reinstall everything else, but it was pretty frustrating doing all those commands. And so once you have all that situated, you use this command start X to enable Window Maker, and I'll show you guys that here in a second. And that pulls up Window Maker. And Window Maker is a GUI for FreeBSD, because usually, well, every time you install FreeBSD, it's just like a terminal or CLI. There's not anything graphical besides the ASCII little devil thing at the beginning. So the memory management it separates it into 3 separate parts: text, data, and stack. Text is read-only and it's machine instructions, so those processes. Data and stack are both readable and writable. So the data uses the initialized and uninitialized parts of a program, and the stack contains the program's runtime. So when the program's running, it'll be in the stack. File manager I chose was Roxfiler. It's a GUI-based file browser. The current version of that is 2.11, and so to install that, as on one of my previous slides, you couldn't really see it, but you type this command right here, pkg install rox-filer, and that'll install that for you. It's written in C, so that's the language that it's coded in. For your device manager, DMESG kind of lists it's like a huge kind of unorganized looking mess of what's connected to your computer. But if you used PCI conf dash LV. It gives you a more brief, organized readout of what's connected to your device manager. And device manager continued, sort of like, I thought this was kind of funny. You can't really see it, but I went on, this is like FreeBSD's forum, like on their website, and it said, like to get a more accurate description of stuff connected to your computer to use Windows. I thought that was kind of funny. So it says right here, it says some versions of Microsoft Windows have a system icon which can be used to see your device manager. So I thought that was funny that they were just throwing that out there. Network manager. So to see your like stuff connected on your network, you use ifconfig, and to use your network manager, you have to use, once again, pkg install, and then the name of the package you want to get. And so the network manager for FreeBSD is actually network MGR, so it's like an abbreviation of network manager. Netstat, it shows the forwarding table of your network, and then socket-4-1, that shows it's like all the running devices on IPv4. Some useful commands. Shutdown -R now shuts down your PC, then reboots it immediately. Last shows the last user logged in and their status. df-h lists all the free space available on your operating system. Package info gives you more information about all the packages that you've previously downloaded. And uptime shows you the server's uptime status and operation. Some more useful commands. The PCI conf-LV, that's what I said earlier, that's shows all the devices connected to your machine. The netstat and sockstat are also those network manager commands. Halt will shut down your system immediately, and then at user, you use that when you're in root or sudo to add another user to your account. So, I have a quiz. It's loading on my screen, so.
We're supposed to go play.
We need our phones for this quiz? or-
Yeah, it's a Kahoot.
Boy, this group likes their Kahoot, don't they?
I started it, everybody followed suit.
I did.
Is it an app?
Stole it after me.
So you go to kahoot.it.
That was original.
Make it full screen.
You can't start till Wade gets back.
Is that yours?
It's like Christmas thing now.
The who dot what?
IT.
Come on, Kevin.
The game pin that's up on the screen.
Hold on.
Chris Todd brought her phone today to play. She's finally learning. Last day, she caught on.
Wait, who's Austin?
Me, I'm playing.
You're not.
I know all the answers.
Radio?
Just need one more, or is that everyone?
That looks like a,
There we go.
that's you.
Mr.
There's 11 questions, you only have 10.
Oh,
It's
no.
seashell. It's a seashell.
You're just gonna tell us the answer?
Yeah, it uses a seashell.
I got this one wrong.
Oh, you're a jerk. Did you seriously pay attention?
Wait, I think there are so many Berkeleys.
Yeah.
Yeah, Berkeley software district. I was like, I couldn't find it fast enough.
You made the answers too hard.
Well, you know it's not that one.
Fix it.
Joel, stop it.
By 2 points, Joel. Okay,
I'm confused.
okay, it was 386 BSD. That was really misleading.
That wasn't FreeBSD.
What was the first version of FreeBSD called?
FreeBSD.
FreeBSD? I don't know, because it.
386 wasn't FreeBSD.
Probably so. It's still moving.
I like Walmart.
I got that one first.
I am Groot.
I am rude.
I don't think you can get this one. This music.
Joel has fallen.
Oof.
Oh, crap.
Oh crap, I don't remember.
I hope I could, yeah.
I got it.
Oof.
What do they want?
It was 2 gigs of RAM.
The teach. Okay, this is a lot of people.
Netflix.
Well, the
Wait, not the park?
difference.
This is Netflix. It is Netflix.
What?
What?
Did you open your pamphlet?
Yeah, dude,
Obviously you didn't. You didn't say it.
The first letter is.
maybe I didn't hear that!
Did you
Maybe
read
you
it?
weren't paying attention.
Gee! Wow!
I bet that file next door is well.
Yeah, they're not liking us.
What kind of file are they taking?
Dang!
Probably,
Cahoots. Or the Yankee. Oof.
Hard question.
There we go.
I'm trying to look up there and trying to.
Yeah, I had like my finger ready, but it was
No, you.
No, you.
wait.
Oh,
So
wait.
WAD input output.
I had to throw in a random question just to keep it.
Please tell me I get it right.
This
Oh
is
my-
actually, I did some research to find this out.
Dang it!
Yeah!
It's actually 700 pounds. So like, they took somebody at like some university, took a woodchuck, and they measured like how much like dirt he could like burrow or something, and then it was like 36 cubic feet or something like that, and then
they
they
calculate.
took like a whole day or something, and
Well, thank God I'm still in
found
second
out
place
it was
behind you, Wayne.
700 pounds of wood
I got
that one
third.
chuck could chuck.
You still have one more?
It's a window shop.
There you go. Wait, a WAD input output?
Yay!
I got there.
I am rude.
You play another.
No.
Oh, you got third.
Sure did.
Boy.
Alright, so now I'll show you guys.
Video?
No, it's TeamViewer.
Oh, boy.
It's TeamViewer, it's just a computer,
Can you turn off that front row of lights?
or all of them, because there's only one.
So when you start it up, this is literally what pops up on your screen when you start it up for the first time. So I'm gonna sign into root. You can set, like there's a variable where you can set there to be like no passwords at all, but that's not very safe, so just use a live password.
That's not very safe either.
So this is the screen you're greeted with. So to start up the GUI, I'm gonna type start X. Oh,
Just like what XFCE uses.
There we go.
That or XFCE.
I didn't install on this machine because I didn't trust all the resources on here to hold up, so I used my computer at home. Okay. I'll find it here in a second. Oh, there's a delay. So here we go. So what's cool about Window Maker is, oh my goodness, this is awful. So it's called Window Maker because you can create like different like windows. So if you have like a bunch of stuff open on like, I guess like a desktop or something, you can like switch it to like a different one and like back and forth. That's what this little like icon up here, it shows you the number of which page you're on. Sorry for this.
Is it just frozen or what?
No, it's like, so when I move it, there's like a giant delay between my computer at home and this. And so it's like,
Oh, you did it from home?
yeah, so here.
Isn't that amazing? You can reach all the way over here. All the way over.
Let's go to space and back. Did the thing. To the thing. It's a drop down box. Combo box.
Well, not to pick on Austin, but this is a good lesson right here to learn that just because tools are available doesn't always mean that they're gonna work the way you think. So it'd be good to always kind of pre-test what you think you're gonna try.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting, this at all.
Had you tried it from here before like that?
I've like logged into it, but I've never used the mouse.
Do you think that's just the communication between, like, it's far away or your machine that you're using right now?
Yeah, it's the snow.
Yeah.
I don't blame it on the snow.
Satellite internet.
This goes, that's where the magic happens.
Well, so in order to run something on here, there's like, you right click and then right here it says run. And so to open up like anything, you just kind of type the name. So if I wanted to run like, let's say like Firefox, because I had that installed, you just type Firefox and hit enter and it will pop up. And then it'll pop up down here in this bottom left-hand corner, and then you can drag it and like lock it up, say that circle. That's like where the dock is on the right-hand side, and so you can lock it there. And if you don't want it anymore, and you want it to like exit, you like drag it off into like open space and release with your mouse, and it like explodes. It's kind of a cool animation. Yeah, so that's how you run stuff.
Ooh, a quick question about that though. So do you have to start up a window maker every time you log into BSD?
Like that's how I have it set up, but I'm sure there's a way to have it where it automatically boots into it. Cause I can exit from here too with the, when you right click, it says exit window maker, and it'll take you back to the CLI. I don't know why this is. Like I'm not even like moving my finger. I'm just touching the mouse pad. Maybe I can catch it.
Maybe you
Oh.
should log out and log back in and see if you get a better connection.
It's a good idea.
Do you think it would run better on your machine in the lab?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Because that might, we could probably do that, just move the lab.
Harder, Well, you're in good company. I've even been to Microsoft events where the Microsoft systems crash while the people are on stage, so, you know, it does happen.
It'd be sweet.
Yeah.
Or for Valve, Gabe Newell was giving a presentation on like the new Steam games, like, and then it went into Windows Update. So he's like, oh, like, and then I was like, yeah, and then this is why I use Linux.
Yeah, so it's true, Windows updates at the worst possible times.
That's why you get the Pro version, so you can say no to those updates. I love the Pro version.
And if you don't, you need to always go into every, I'm not picking on Austin, this is just things I've learned too, but every time you get ready to present, you better have plan A, plan B, and plan C ready in your back pocket, because you can be sure something's not gonna go quite right. So, I mean, we've all seen it happen. That's one of the hardest things about teaching, is I don't have time every day to have pre-plans for each session, so.
Oh, come on,
Yeah.
you're full of time.
I am.
When Apple did their, I think it was when they did the fingerprint scanner demo, live demo, they had 6 different phones up there because sometimes it didn't work.
Oh, man.
There's also like the whole
But
thing
it
with
did
Steve
work.
Jobs with the first iPhone ever, where like they had like a cell tower right next to it, so it would have full strength, and there was like and there was also a bunch of phones because they crashed all the time.
Right.
New technology.
So I guess this is the end, but another thing I can say is a lot of people use FreeBSD because it's pretty secure and it's really easy to like make your own version of it. That's why like PS4 and like Netflix use it. I think Netflix uses it for like a web server or something like that. And so that's all I have.
Do you think you could show us
What about
on your
questions?
machine in the lab?
Maybe, but
You'd have to install
it seems more like it's, I don't know, like the virtual machine across the network. So I'm at home, it works perfectly normal. And then you can see when I was on my actual computer, my mouse was working fine, so I don't know what the issue is.
it. Just latency.
Yeah, I guess.
So on your home
What
computer,
if someone's at home messing with the computer right now?
you have Windows and FreeBSD?
It's possible.
That
would be
sounds
possible.
you set it up to where you run BSD.
It's easier on
I
a
also have a virtual machine.
I have a virtual machine running.
Just
It could be
imagine-
why too, because you're trying to team view it in, and then find your virtual machine.
How funny would it be if like Austin's machine was like
Yeah,
full
like,
screen
I
and
could
the
actually
camera was just
also
in,
do
but
it.
now it's just.
Well, I could really clean it.
It's all.
I had one. I had this one.
That'd be
Got a question?
That's probably what it was. Oh yeah, questions.
Should we turn lights on since we won't,
Oh, it'd be so funny if it was actually all over.
So when I was doing my operating system, True OS, and I went through the whole install process, it's the same thing as FreeBSD, but mine didn't work. So do they say anything about like True OS being part of FreeBSD when you're doing your research?
I didn't run across anything. I just know that like when you install it, so like if you have the ISO, like you have the disk image and you install it, you still have to have the mirror. So if you're not connected to the internet, it won't install. So I don't know if maybe that was a problem.
So True OS is literally just BSD, but with their Lumina desktop. That's really all it is, and the Lumina desktop is the most buggy thing ever created, and that's why it doesn't work on virtual machines. So like True OS server is literally just BSD, but with True OS in the title. So it's all BSD, but their desktop and their applications built on it.
Is it more buggy than Fallout?
Well-
Pretty close.
Probably not.
more buggy than what?
Fallout, the game.
Yeah, I know what
Fallout
This is
76.
I regretted buying that game.
I would like to clarify, the question that we played also confused the group, and I was a little confused in your explanation. You said FreeBSD started as FreeBSD, and then it changed its name, and then it changed back to its name? Because-
FreeBSD started out, I guess I was referring to it as like FreeBSD, but it wasn't actually FreeBSD at the time. It was like 386 BSD. So that was like
The first original name.
like the kind of like concept thing that they made. But the first version of FreeBSD, I was considering it like that with the project and like the group name and like all the people that actually.
So the first project version of
Yeah.
FreeBSD was called FreeBSD. Is that what you're saying?
Mm.
Yeah, because in one of your statements, you also said 386 BSD was the child of FreeBSD.
Maybe that's not what I meant.
I'm confused. So it started out.
So it was like that was like a rough draft.
386 BSD was
Yeah.
their rough draft.
But
Then
like the final copy was like
Genesis.
FreeBSD.
You also said something about you had to disconnect your ISO, but I don't think when you were talking about, I think I know what you meant, but I don't think you were loading it, and then you said, yeah, but if I don't disconnect my ISO, it just reboots and reboots and reboots.
It's kind of like if you use like a flash drive,
Do you like for Hyper-V, how you have to unmount the disk?
kind of. So like there's different types of ISOs. Like you can just get the ISO that I use, which I didn't have to do any of that. But like if you got the boot only ISO, it's basically like a thumbstick. If you were booting from a thumbstick, you have to unplug it when you're done, so then it like boots.
And you're talking about doing this within your VM player.
Yeah, within a virtual machine.
That's
So
where
like
you had to
can,
disconnect the ISO.
yeah. So you can go into like wherever you have the ISO stored and just disconnect it.
And they really let you continue with a blank host name?
I don't really remember if I named it or not. I don't think I named it.
I've never known a machine to leave a host name blank.
I've done it in my installations before,
Really?
but it's not really. But like you can't do anything related to networking.
Okay.
It's like you're stuck.
Your DNS would not like that, I don't think.
No, it wouldn't.
I was able to connect the internet though through Firefox. But I couldn't show you guys.
Yeah. You referenced that you went with packages rather than ports. Can you talk about ports?
Not really, because I just went with packages. I didn't really investigate the ports because I wasn't using them. So
Oh, you wanna know what ports are? No.
Sure, I think that's a good place for us to talk about this.
It's like ports. I mean, you can think about it in some of the way that so they're called like port trees, and it's where you kind of like they're sort of like repositories, sort of like Ubuntu snap packages. So they're like pre-built packages maintained by BSD, the organization, and you can like connect, so it's like a safe repository, or you can use just packages, which is run by them and the community.
And ports is one of those words that in our field has about 5 different meanings. There's a network meaning for ports, there's a TCP port meaning, there's the ports to be portability and go across different platforms. And then there's this idea that we ported our software to fit what we want. We took somebody else's idea and we fixed it so that we would port it to us. So ports can be quite confusing. So in OS, when you're porting, you're doing what he's kind of describing, taking software that somebody else may have made for this platform, you tweaked it and you said, here it is, now you can port over here. You can use it over here, kind of like that. So. Well, I'm sorry your demonstration had its issue. I'll be happy to look and see if it works better in the lab before we get finished, but I think probably, unless anybody else has a question for him. Last call for questions. All right, thank you for coming.
Oh, no, you should have done that.
We'll have to
No,
reschedule over
next
Christmas
one.
break. Our
Yeah,
meeting
you
will
should
have
have
to
done
be
that.
rescheduled today,
I want
right?
to probably be back to the lab.
About a couple windows away. We're close to
Nobody knows what it is.
It's from, it's a SpongeBob reference.
Is it the fire
Man, thing.
All right, we're gonna take our exciting,
Oh, I have a final in 2 hours. Freaking out, man.
The end is nigh. The end is
You guys have a wonderful test.
yes.
too.
Sorry you didn't get to see the better demonstration part. That was the most
Why doesn't
interesting
he
part.
have to take it?
My class will be next semester.
You can take it this year and not have to do it next year.
You just answer and see if I get all
Just
the
imagine.
So anybody need a break? Anybody need to run the restroom? Anybody need something out of the lab besides?
I need a nap.
Well, then,
He takes it this
you can take it right after you're done with this, right?
Let's do it, let's go.
Where did Elsie go?
Wait, you didn't even go cry for me.
Your caramel donut.
I can't believe
I've been sitting there smelling it.
Hey, you don't get to use your references, you don't get to use your little
Aw.
guides, so put them away.
Wait, the AG, I want to do flashcards.
And no flashcards. Okay, these are your things, there's 2 or 3 questions at the
Couldn't
end
use
that
your
are my
phones.
questions. Can't use your phone, I can
It's
say that.
categorized.
How nice, they even left them in their order.
That's nice.
So basically you just use all of them?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
We'll see how well you reviewed your colleagues' information.